I'll give you what he is saying here. Okay, he is discussing the duality of Purusha Prakriti. Okay, at which level you are. It depends at which level you are. There can be so many different levels. Okay, we have discussed that already in the Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara, in Life Divine. So when you are at your normal consciousness, like all of us are, we are ignorant and we are identified with our body, mind, life. You don't see the Purusha, you don't see the reality, you don't see God, you don't see your own self, you don't see a psychic being, you are in ignorance. At that time, what you see is, you see nature as mechanical energy. No? It is only river is flowing, sun is shining, um, the river is flowing, the wind is blowing, everything is mechanical. There is no consciousness in this, in nature. And that's a fact also. 90% of the time, it is mechanical. Okay? So that's why, as I said, physics is possible. The laws of physics are possible. You can accurately forecast because it is mechanical law. We can forecast things. We can forecast when the sun is going to rise tomorrow, when the comet is going to come back after 75 years also if it comes back. Halley's comet. Every 75 years it comes. It's elliptical object, it goes around the sun and we can see it when it comes near us. So, this is the first one. Now, when you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, which we call level 2, you see that, oh, you are in the consciousness of the self. Okay? At that time, several things can happen. Either you see the physical world as unreal, okay? Only an image, it's not it's like a photograph. And a photograph is only a representation, it's not real. Either this and your consciousness is absolutely featureless and absolutely pure, that's a Purusha. Okay? And the Prakriti in the physical world is movement and unconscious mechanical movement. This is one experience you can have. Then when you go to a slightly other level, the Purusha and the Prakriti, which seemed absolutely separate from each other, having no relation at all, now you see that there is a relation. Okay? And you see yourself as consciousness, and now you see the mechanical force as your own. There is a connection, and you can have some power over it to change it also. Okay? So, seems to be your own body, mind, life, and there are gradations. And in the last one, the Purusha and Prakriti become one at the highest level. So these are the different gradations of the Purusha Prakriti experience that he is giving us. Okay. Even in the second one, in level 2, you can be sometimes in the Purusha consciousness and the physical world is absolutely separate from you, you have nothing to do with it. Or sometimes when you descend, okay, your consciousness descends back into the body, mind, life, you remember the Purusha experience, but it's not real to you anymore. It's like a fire that is raging and the fire that has gone out, but only the embers are burning, okay. The coal is still, it is emitting heat, but the flames are not there. Only remembrance is there, like that. Then at the highest level, they are all both involved in each other. Consciousness itself is power, and power itself is conscious. So these are the different experiences he is telling. Okay? And sometimes what happens is, he is 4 or 5 paras here. Sometimes you are in both. Okay? You are conscious and you are in both. You are in the Prakriti consciousness. Part of you is in the body, mind, life, and part of you is in the self. Okay, that also can happen. This even without development of consciousness also is possible. I had read about a traffic accident in America where the person, he was going on a motorbike or whatever, and he had an accident and he fell off. His body fell on the road, but his being, okay, the subtle being, came out, and what he found was part of him is in the body. Okay, he partly there and partly here. Even consciousness can separate itself. So this is what Srimdev is saying in so many different ways. You can be either only in the Purusha consciousness and the Prakriti is separate from you, or when you are in the Prakriti consciousness like all of us, but only difference is you have had the experience of the self and you remember it. That's one. Or you can be partly in both. You can be here and there. And when you are here and there, Sometimes the leaning is more on one side and sometimes the leaning is more on the other side. So these are all the variations that Srila is speaking of. Mind, because spiritual experience is not something categorical like, like a series of steps. When you are at step 1, you are not on step 2. It's not like that. There is a gradation and they merge one into the other. Okay. As I said, it's more like a ramp. Okay. So now we read the para. This is what he is discussing in this whole section of the chapter. Okay, so 121. Where are we? Yeah, 121. On another line of approach, different types of dualities are experienced. Okay, so
Shall I
hello.
read?
Yeah, on another line of approach.
On another line of approach, another duality presents itself to the experience of the seeker. On one side, he becomes aware of a witness, recipient observing, experiencing consciousness which does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside us seem to be undertaken and continue. On the other side, he is aware at the same time of an executive force or an energy of process which is seen to constitute, drive, and guide all conceivable activities and to create a myriad forms visible to us and invisible and use them as stable supports for its incessant flux of action and creation. Entering exclusively into the witness consciousness, he becomes silent, untouched, immobile. He sees that he has till now passively reflected and appropriated to himself the movements of nature, and it is by this reflection that they acquired from the witness soul within him what seemed a spiritual value and significance. But now he has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. He is conscious only of his silent self and aloof from all that is in motion around it. All activities are outside him, and at once they cease to be intimately real. They appear now mechanical, detachable, and endable. Entering exclusively into the kinetic movement, he has an opposite self awareness. He seems to his own perception a mass of activities, a formation and result of forces. If there is an active consciousness, even some kind of kinetic being in the midst of it all, yet there is no longer a free soul in it anywhere. These two different and opposite states of being alternate in him or else stand simultaneously over against each other. One silent in the inner being observes but is unmoved and does not participate. The other active in some outer or surface self pursues it or surface self pursues its habitual movements. He has entered into an intense separative perception of the great duality, soul nature, Purusha Prakriti.
Exactly what we discussed. Many, many possibilities are there in this experience of Purusha Prakriti, witness soul. So, we'll do one thing. I will first tell you all the cases by reading out the summary. Then we'll go into each sentence and see the meaning of each word, because each word conveys something and normally we don't stop to think what that word means. Okay, so that's what we will do. But the cases, all the different cases that are there, we'll look at that first and then we'll go back to the para. Okay, so here in this one, in the previous paras, we have seen that the consciousness of the individual can see both spirit and matter as separate. Okay, they don't seem to have anything to do with each other. Yet, in a gradually growing presence of the higher in the lower, there is certainly a duality and a division, but also the possibility of a harmonizing solution. The two can coexist. Okay, and develops it, it is another matter. Okay? with the duality because of the tremendous sense of infinity and freedom in the higher hemisphere. He goes to the higher hemisphere and rejects the lower, like the ascetic or the Buddhist. Okay, he is very happy because he is absolutely free. No suffering, no pain, absolute peace and calm, no worries at all. Nothing is bothering him, no tension. Okay, so he is very satisfied. But that's not the only thing. So, then I have given a justification for it. Why would man who has suffered limitation, incapacity, and pain in the lower hemisphere want to enter that sphere again? He doesn't want to. I don't want all the suffering that I had undergone. Why should I? So I escape. I deny the reality of the physical world and I go away to the higher hemisphere. The ascetic tendency of wanting to reject permanently the region of darkness, suffering, and ignorance, therefore, is very understandable. But those, okay, those like Sri Aurobindo and the mother, not happy to see imperfection anywhere, any region, in any quarter, naturally want to heal the division. Okay. So now Sri Aurobindo discusses another form of the dichotomy, another duality. And what is that? This is what we read just now, this paragraph. On one side, the sadhaka stations himself in the self, above, in the head, level 2 if you want, okay, in hemisphere 2. The witness stance, only receiving, but without any reactions. Note that, okay? It means only receiving. We'll see that word. When he is receiving only, he is not reacting, okay? The impacts are coming, thoughts of others are coming into his mind, okay? Emotions are also coming, but he is not reacting at all. It's like a vast sea into which the rivers and the streams are all going in, but they don't remain separate. They become absolutely part of the sea. And the sea is not making any difference when this is coming into the sweet water of the rivers is coming into it, but they become salt. Okay. So, calm, quiet, without any reactions. The incoming impacts. Receiving without any reactions, the incoming impact. This consciousness is silent, inactive, because it's not reacting, only watching with a highly conscious state. But this universe, with its eternal and infinite multiplicity, a form of executive energy. Executive energy. Energy can be non-executive, but here it is executive. That means it is moving. There can be energy in a battery, for instance. Okay. The energy is static, it's not executed. But here you see the physical world as constantly having an effect and moving and creating things. Okay? Executive energy, which seems to originate, guide, and control all physical, vital, and mental activity. It creates infinite forms, material as well as immaterial. Material forms, stones, trees, flowers, whatever you want, okay? Human beings, cats, dogs, but also emotions and thoughts, which are not visible to you. He has used the word visible. Then, he now realizes that what he previously attributed action, emotion, and thought to himself as creator and doer, he now sees that that impression is false. He is not doing anything. He is just watching actually. And he was ascribing all those movements which others were doing in him to himself. Okay, it's interesting. I'll tell you a very interesting story which is very, very similar to this. Okay? You know, someone else is doing, but you take the credit. Okay, actually, the universal force is doing everything. It is making your mind think, it is making your emotions come into your heart, and you are doing also is making your body move. It's universalness is doing. But you are thinking that you are doing, you are taking the credit for it. I'll tell you a very funny story. It just now entered my mind. Okay. Shahanadi was a old sadhak. Okay. And in Mother India, we are going to publish some of her old letters and correspondence. And she was a very good singer. Okay. She was one of 4 sisters, Sahana, Amiya, Orunadi, and the 4th one, I have forgotten her name, but she is the one who brought up Hema Prema and also Mahendra and also 4 sisters. And they all came here to Pondicherry and they were related to Chittaranjan Das. And Charlie's correspondence is very good. She had many experiences. She was an excellent musician. She could sing very well. Okay. So one day in the Savitri music, okay, the one that Sunilda composed, it is all many these Anima Ganguly, okay, that was her name. Yasmin knows, Chom's mother, okay. She is the one who has sung all the shlokas and all that in Savitri music. It is always Animadi's voice. Now what happened one day, Sahanadi came and spoke to Animadi and she said, I'll tell you in Bengali first and then I'll tell you afterwards in English, okay? She said, Tumi jano, tomake eta kotha bolte hobe. I have to tell you something, okay? Someone praised me for the passages that you had sung, okay? And I took the credit. I accepted the compliments. I'm confessing to you now that what you had sung, I have taken the credit for it, okay? Very interesting. This is exactly similar to what's happening when you are in the Purusha consciousness. You think that you are thinking, you are doing, and you are acting. Actually, you are not. You are taking the credit for all that yourself. You see the resemblance? It's very interesting. The idea has just struck me just now. So, this is what happens. And then when that happens, you realize that, oh my God, I have done nothing at all. So you confess to yourself like Shahanadi that I was not doing anything at all and yet I was taking credit for it. Okay, so actually it is the universal nature, universal force, Shakti, which is doing everything in the physical world. Okay, and yet you are taking credit for it. So this is what Srimad is saying here. Okay, so now I go back to my a very interesting incident. Okay.
So Ranganath,
Yes, tell me.
When we do something wrong, also we shouldn't take the credit, right?
No, that depends on whether you are identified or not. In which consciousness are you? If you are in the lower consciousness, then you have to take credit and discredit both. It is valid for you. This applies, what I am telling you applies only when you see that you are not doing. That means you have to go to the higher level of consciousness. Are we in the higher level of consciousness? No.
No, then at that consciousness, we don't usually take the credit, no?
That's right, you don't take the credit. But here, yeah, it is automatic. Pallu, what you're saying is okay, we take the credit, but it is not due to us. We don't need the credit. We don't deserve it.
Yes, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. But you have to do that because when you do something wrong, then you can argue that, oh, I am not doing, nature is doing. It's perfectly okay. That argument won't do.
Yes.
It depends at which
Because
level
in
you
that consciousness, you don't do anything wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. You don't have any responsibility at all. When you go to the higher level of consciousness, what the body-mind life is doing, you are not concerned with it at all. It's a part of universal nature. The universal nature is, the river is flowing, okay? The river is not taking credit for it. That's a positive thing. But there are negative things also. There is a forest fire, there is a storm, but the storm does not feel that I am doing any damage, okay? When you are in the higher consciousness, everything is mechanical in the physical world. Even your own actions are like universal forces. You are not responsible for it at all. That is exactly what in the Gita also we have the same problem. Arjuna is thinking that I cannot do anything, I cannot kill my people. He is taking credit or discredit for what he is about to do. But Sri Krishna tells him, don't identify yourself with the lower consciousness. Go to the higher consciousness and see what the divine is telling you to do. If the divine tells you not to do, fine, don't do it. But the divine may also tell you to do it. Okay? Then you do it, but now you have no responsibility. Okay? You are not responsible for what is happening. This is exactly the truth. Okay? So, this is the Purusha Prakriti consciousness. Now I go back to the summary that I was reading. He, the witness, the sadhaka, stationed at the higher level in the self, okay, he now realizes that what he previously attributed action, emotion, and thought to himself as the creator and doer, he now sees that that impression is false. The real executive is universal nature, not his real individuality, the soul. This error of perception was due to the ego, the shadow agent of the soul self. It was the ego which was responsible for his false sense of doership. That I am doing, it's the ego that makes you get that wrong impression. And when you go to the self, the ego disappears and therefore the truth shines. I am not doing anything, I am only a witness. Now I go to the next, the summary only. Before settling himself permanently in the Brahman consciousness, he swings between the two hemispheres. That also can happen. Okay? Sometimes he is in the higher hemisphere, sometimes he is in the lower hemisphere. When in the higher, the lower for him is unreal, or at least half real. Shadow, and there are many, many examples of the half real in the physical world, like shadow, like a blue sky. The sky is not blue, but you see it as blue, half real, half unreal. Like the rainbow. There is no rainbow there, but you see it. Half real, half unreal. These are examples of half reality. When in the lower state, he experiences no free soul, no free infinite consciousness. Sometimes you swing between the two. This is what happened to Aurobindo also after his Baroda experience. His Baroda experience, he shot into the self, but then the lower nature is also pulling you down. So he had to go several times up and down, up and down, up and down, until finally he could make himself permanently station himself in the higher level. It takes time. Okay. After several repetitions, then you get stuck in the higher. But otherwise, you have to make an effort, you have to remember and go on aspiring, and then you can become stationed in the higher permanently. But in the beginning, it's not permanent. All the cases that I have heard in the ashram, they are all temporary. One is, I told you, some 2-3 seconds, they go into the higher consciousness and descend again. Some have experience of 2 hours, some have experience for 6 months, but they will come down. Okay, and then the experience repeats itself again and again and again, and finally you are stationed in the higher permanently. Okay. Now, in the lower state, when he is in lower hemisphere, identified with your body, mind, life, he is aware of himself only as a mass of activities and forces. He sees that his body is acting, and he also knows that his emotions are there. He also sees himself as a combination of thoughts, emotions, and actions. He may be exclusively in any of these states. He can be in hemisphere 1 or he can be in hemisphere 2. But he may also be in both simultaneously. Okay? That's what Shraddha is describing here in the para. He is in the great duality of Purusha and Prakriti. Okay? So this is what he is saying in the para that we have just now read. I have just given you the summary. Okay? Now we can go back to the sentence and analyze each word, because each word is very, very important. Okay, so we'll see what, because once you understand the use of words, then next time when it comes, you understand exactly what he's saying. Okay, so I go back to the beginning of the para. On another line of approach. Okay, so if you've got the text with you, go back to the beginning of the para. On another line of approach, another duality presents itself. There's so many different. We spoke about that in the beginning of the class today. No? On another line of approach, another duality presents itself to the experience of the seeker. On one side, he becomes aware of a witness recipient, observing, experiencing consciousness, which does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside him, inside and outside. So we'll see what it means by that. Okay? So I stop here. Note the word witness recipient. What does that mean? Recipient means the universe is acting upon you and you are receiving all these things without reacting. You are only receiving. Okay? observing and experiencing, but you're not reacting. Okay, we come back to the famous distinction in our Indian philosophy: jnana indriya, jnanendriya, and karmendriyas. In the physical world, normally when we are there, the world is interacting with you and you are interacting with the world. We normally don't think of it in that way, but this is the reality. You are part of the universe, universal forces, thoughts at the mental level, emotions at the vital level, and even physical things are entering into you, and you are also throwing out physical things. Even the air you are breathing is physical. You are breathing in air from the universe, and you are breathing out also again into the universe. So there is an incoming and an outgoing action all the time. But when you are in the self, there is no outgoing. You are only receiving calmly, quietly. Like as I said, all the rivers are flowing into the sea, but there is no reaction in the sea. It just absorbs all these things and makes it salt. The river does not remain sweet anymore. You just all these things go into you, and you are calm and quiet, not reacting at all. That is what is meant by recipient. Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. We have discussed this several times, but this concept is not there at all in the West. Okay, but it's a very important concept because it explains also the Purusha Prakriti experience. Okay, so what Shelby is saying, you are you are aware of the witness recipient. Each word is so important. Recipient. You see now how much of is there, and you are only observing, but you are not reacting. Observing, experiencing. You are experiencing but not reacting. You are not acting. Experiencing consciousness, which does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside us. So, what are the inside and the outside? Inside is your thoughts and emotions, and the outside your physical actions. Okay, when you are eating, you are sleeping, you are playing football, you are kicking a ball, it's outside. Okay, but inside also is there. So this is what he's saying. He's so particular. He is including all the actions. Seem to be undertaken and continue. Okay? They seem to be undertaken, not by himself, but somehow or other is going. Someone is doing it. On the other side, this is the description of the hemisphere 2, when he is in level 2. Okay? On the other side, he is aware of this at the same time of an executive force. When he is in the higher consciousness, he is seeing down below an executive force. We discussed that just now. There can be force which is static and there can be force which is executive. But in the physical world, no static force at all. The static force is the self in the level 2. But in the physical world, it is executive force. Now you understand the importance of the word executive. Okay? It's not just a word. It is where force is acting. Okay? Or an energy of process which is seen to constitute, drive and guide all conceivable activities. All conceivable activities, mental activities, vital activities, as well as physical activities. And to create a myriad forms visible to us and invisible, and use them as stable supports for its incessant flux of action and creation. In the physical world, the flux of action is incessant. There is absolutely nothing that is stable in the physical world. Okay? So clear. Incessant flux of action. Okay? Movement. Entering exclusively into the witness consciousness, exclusively. Now he is not in the body mind life at all. Okay? Exclusively in the witness consciousness, he becomes silent, not reacting at all, untouched. The others are coming in, but he is left high and dry. He is not affected at all. At our level, when someone insults you, you are disturbed. It creates vibrations of disturbance in you. Or even when someone praises you, there is a disturbance of pleasant. There can be a disturbance of pleasant or unpleasant. Both are disturbances. The stuff in your consciousness starts moving, either pleasantly or unpleasantly. So that's it. Entering, he is untouched, but in the silent self, he is untouched. Absolutely calm and quiet. Immobile.
But Rangata,
Yeah, tell me.
in that consciousness, your body, vital, and mind is not in that consciousness. No.
No, it is
So
outside.
that will react. That will react, and that witness will be seeing your body, mind, and vital reacting. No.
Exactly, exactly. Pallu, it is
So
like this. When you are acting, I'm not acting, na? So I
yes,
see it completely as separate, as though somebody else is doing. Your
yes.
consciousness has come out, and you are
Hmm.
the consciousness, and you are watching your body mind life acting mechanically, and you are not responsible for it.
Yes,
Exactly.
so when I'm in that consciousness, if my body or vital or mind does something wrong, I say that I have not done it. Means,
Yes, that's right.
but your body and mind or something has done something wrong, then you don't
Yes,
take the responsibility.
that's right. You are right. But I'll just make another small comment. You are saying right and wrong when you are in the lower consciousness. But when you are in the higher consciousness, there is only action. There is no wrong or right. Okay.
Okay.
I'll tell you how again. I give you the example of a wind. Okay. A wind is there and it is blowing. When it is very soft in the physical world, it is pleasant for you. You think it
Hmm.
is good. Okay.
Hmm.
But when that same wind, it is still only wind, but it is blowing at 100, 200 miles an hour, it destroys, and you say it is bad. So, in the physical world, the same thing you see as good and bad. You see the dualities. Okay?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when you are in the higher consciousness, you are not seeing the slow wind and the high speed wind. You are seeing only wind. You are seeing wind acting in different levels. Okay? So the idea of good and bad disappears when you are in the higher consciousness. That is the reason why morality, good and bad, virtue and sin disappears when you are in the higher level of consciousness. With the image of the wind, you will understand exactly what is being said. Na? It's clear,
Hmm.
huh? It's a very important
Yes.
concept. Okay. When you are in the spiritual consciousness, there is no sin and there is no virtue. They are all at the same level. Okay.
But Rangata, our body, mind, and vital is not at that consciousness. So then it has the body, mind, and vital has to follow some social norms, right? Even if you are in that consciousness.
No, when you are in that consciousness, the body mind life is like somebody else is doing. So you are not responsible for it. And you are in peace and calm and you accept it. But we must remember, we must not be confused. This is what the Buddhists say and also what the Mayavadins say. But Srinda wants even the body mind life with its.
Yes, eventually we have to change it. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. But that's a very difficult thing. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Okay? So now I continue with the. Yeah, we got 10 minutes. I continue with this. See, we got stuck at the word. It's so important, no?
Executive.
Witness recipient. You see how much of there is in the word recipient. Okay. So, recipient observing, experiencing consciousness, which does not appear to act. Now he's saying, which does not appear to act. Why is he saying that? Because it is actually acting, which you go to a slightly higher level and you see that in the beginning what you thought that you are not acting, now at a slightly higher level, this is what he's describing in this para. You see that there is a connection. It is not that there is no connection at all between your body and your vital. There is a connection. Your view of things goes on changing from one level to another level. So when you go to a slightly higher level, in the hemisphere itself, there are 4 5 levels, no? Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, over mind. So when you go to a slightly higher level, first I thought I am body mind life. Now I see that I am not body mind life, and I see absolutely no connection between the two. I go to a slightly higher level and say, I thought there is no connection, but there is a connection. A very faint connection is there. Okay. So this is what it is describing. Okay. Does not appear to act, but for which all these activities inside and outside us seem to be undertaken and continue by somebody else. Okay. And that somebody else is the universal force. On the other side, he is aware of the same time of an executive force. We dealt with the word executive force. Force can be static and it can be executive, or an energy of process which is seen to constitute, drive, and guide all conceivable activities and to create a myriad forms visible to us and invisible and use them as stable supports for its incessant flux of action and creation. Okay, so note the words: it constitutes, it drives, and it guides. All the things are there. The force is doing that. Okay, the force itself is creating all the events and also the physical things. Also, it is constituting, and it is driving them, and it's also guiding all these conceivable activities. Okay, entering exclusively. I am reading the next sentence. Entering exclusively into the witness consciousness. Now he is not identified with the body, mind, life because it is exclusive. In the witness consciousness, he becomes silent, untouched, immobile. He sees that he has till now passively reflected and appropriated to himself the movements of nature. You thought that you are doing, passively you are reflecting the images. Whatever the body, mind, life is doing, you are thinking that you are doing. Okay, and appropriated to himself the movements of nature, and it is by this reflection that they acquired from the witness soul within him what seemed a spiritual value and significance. Spiritual value and significance is what you think is good and bad in the physical world. You think that it has got a value. Actually, it's not. It's just a soft wind and a high wind. There is no virtue and sin there at all. Now, the word appropriate is very interesting. What does the word appropriate mean? Appropriate means to
Take it for yourself.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Okay. There's a very interesting sentence once. I remember because I understood the word at that time. I'll tell you, it's a very funny thing. Srebdo is saying, someone wrote to Srebdo, sir, it is there is a rumor or there is a saying that Annie Besant, okay, um, she also claims to be um, in a past life, she also claims to be some Chinese sage. Okay, let us say whatever the Chinese, what are the Chinese Confucius? Let us say. Okay, so Annie Besant is claiming to be Confucius, but there are others who think that you were Confucius. Okay, I am not reading the exact word, but this is the gist of what's it. Srimdu says, "Oh, if it is like that, I certainly don't want to be." Misappropriate her personality. I don't want to be prosecuted for misappropriation of personality. I don't want to be accused of stealing her personality. So, appropriate means that. Misappropriate, to steal. Appropriate is to take into yourself, but in the right way. Okay, so that's what it is. Appropriate to himself the movements of nature, and it is by this reflection that they acquired values. Okay, that's what we think. What I'm doing is good and bad. Okay, it has spiritual value, but that's absolutely not true. But now he has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. Okay, so this is what I think. He has withdrawn that ascription. He is now quite conscious that he is not acting. He has withdrawn that. Okay, so he has withdrawn that ascription or mirroring identification. That mirroring identification, I have told you, and these images are very useful for understanding things. Okay. He is conscious only of his silent self and aloof from all that is in motion around it. He is only aware of his own state of complete calm and non-action. All activities are outside him, and at once they cease to be intimately real. Now, again, he is using the word intimately real because there is a reality even in those things which are which seem to be only false. There is a reality hiding behind the forms. That's why, but intimately real they are not. When you are in the higher consciousness, they appear now mechanical, detachable, endable. Okay. In the synthesis, in another place, he says that your body seems like an instrument in your hand. Okay, and you can throw away that instrument, Exactly the same way your consciousness can throw away the body. Endable. Okay? Detachable. Your body can be detached from yourself, just as you can throw away an instrument in your hand. It is as graphic as that. Okay? Mechanical, detachable, endable. Entering exclusively into the kinetic movement, now he is in the identified as the body mind life. He has an opposite self-awareness. Opposite. He is acting. In the earlier one, he is not acting. Now he is acting. He becomes aware of that. He seems to his own perception what a mass of activities, formation and result of forces. If there is an active consciousness, even some kind of kinetic being in the midst of it all, yet there is no longer a free soul in it anywhere. You don't see the higher consciousness anymore at all when you are in your body-mind life. Okay? But what he is describing here is not our condition. What he is describing is after going up, you come down, and again you are not aware. You are not the experience of the self is not real to you. Okay, so no longer a free soul in it anywhere. These two different and opposite states of being alternate in him. So sometimes you can be there, sometimes you can be down here. He is giving his own experience. Or else stand simultaneously over against each other. In other words, sometimes you are in the higher, sometimes you are in the lower, and this goes on. But suddenly you can also be partly here and partly there. Okay? Your consciousness can be divided also. A consciousness is not something like a stone. It can divide itself. In fact, you can have, even now, okay, we don't know, but our consciousness is in the body, but there is a vital consciousness also, there is a mental consciousness, and your soul is conscious at a very high level. Your consciousness is stationed in many places, only we are not conscious of it. That's all. Okay? So, or else stand simultaneously over against each other. Now, this is a phrase which he uses very often, over against each other. In other words, both are present, but they don't seem to be in harmony with each other. Simultaneously, over against each other. Several times he uses this phrase, over against each other, simultaneously. They are together, but they are not friendly. Okay? They are against each other. Two friends can be in the same room, and two enemies also can be in the same room. They are together, but they are not friendly at all to each other. Okay? One silent in the inner being observes but is unmoved and does not participate. The other, active in some outer or surface self, pursues its habitual movements. Note the word habitual movements. In other words, all the habits that your body mind life had continues. Okay? And you are just watching without any comment. Oh, it's a nature, that's what it's doing, it's natural. That you take it that way. You don't ascribe any sin to it. He has entered into the intense separated perception of the great duality, soul nature, Purusha Prakriti. So, we have discussed at great length. So, this Purusha Prakriti experience, okay, so it is so interesting how this consciousness can have so many different varieties. I don't think that even the Sankhya philosophy has discussed all these various distinctions that Sri Aurobindo has. Okay? So there they say Purusha Prakriti is separate. They don't even think of it as being together. They are always together, but they are acting in conjunction with each other, and but they are separate always. But in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy, they are separate but acting together, but at the highest level, they are not separate. They are absolutely one. Consciousness automatically has power, and power automatically is conscious at the highest level, not in the lower levels. Neither in level 1, which is our level, nor in level 2, which is the spiritual plane of consciousness. They are different from each other. Okay? So, we have to stop here, 8:36. So next time, but as the consciousness deepens, again another duality you will experience. That's what he's going to explain to you. So, okay?
Okay, Ranganath. Merci.
Yeah,
Bonjour,
Bonjour, everybody.